What's going on, guys? Felmter here, bringing you another Destiny 2 video. Today's video is going to be talking about the archetype that I believe most deserves a PvE buff in Destiny 2, and that is going to be 140 RPM shotguns. Now, for anyone that remembers, back in Season 3, 4, and 5, the Ikelos shotgun and eventually the threat level shotgun from the Scourge of the Pass raid were like the creme de la creme special weapon at the time. They were able to do incredible burst DPS thanks to Trench Barrel being unnerfed at the time, and just hitting like an absolute truck, firing extremely quickly, and being able to pump out some incredible burst that blew apart both Majors, bosses, and this of course was predating champions. Now, since then, Trench Barrel has been nerfed, their fire rate has been nerfed, they've gotten a few damage buffs to their pellets, but unfortunately fusion rifles have kind of crowded them out of their space at this point, mainly because rapid fire fusions, adaptive fusions, and even precision fusions can just hit from farther away and deal with Majors quite effectively thanks to a few combinations of new perks, things like Chill Clip or Controlled Burst or even Reservoir Burst. Gives fusion rifles an edge in the AoE department as well as Major clear department, and they're even better for switching after your heavy ammo has been exhausted and then using these, whereas shotguns in general are a lot more niche. You need to be able to get a lot closer. There are, of course, slugs in the game that have a little bit of range forgiveness. They're able to hit at 10 to 12 meters, depending on the shotgun you're using. But rapid fire, pellet shotguns, you need to be barrel stuffing. You need to be in the enemy ass crack. You need to get yourself in there and just shove the barrel down their throat before pulling the trigger until every last one of your bullets is gone. And then the thing that you're shooting at needs to die. That's how the gun needs to function. The problem is that these are just not ideal weapons, and they don't do enough damage to warrant their usage in how they are requiring you to play, which is incredibly close. Even swords that also require you to be incredibly close, they have a really good ammo economy to make up for that. They have movement in the form of Eager Edge to make up for that. They have a guard so that way you can actually block when you're that close, which kind of makes up for that. Shotguns don't have that. Granted, these are of course special weapons where swords are heavy. I totally understand that portion. But the fact of the matter is that with your rapid fire shotgun, you've got about 3 full mags to dump into something before you're completely out of ammo. They're just not ammo efficient in any way. Their damage isn't good enough right now. And they have great perks. You've got things like Cascade Point. Trench Barrel, if it ever got unnerfed, would be fantastic. Golden Tricorn exists, which gives you the old Trench Barrel numbers if you can set it up, but it of course requires some setup. And these are in theory good perks, but again, they don't address the underlying issue of you need to get point blank to use this thing. It doesn't do enough damage when you're that close to warrant it, because in any content above legend difficulty, you're gonna die if you go in that far. And you have fusion rifles right now that are just doing it better, especially considering that they're again capable of doing AoE clear, which these types of shotguns are just not capable of, which is fine. They can have the niche of just being that burst option that you run up to something and end it, but they just don't fill that function right now, and I really want to see these things really excel in PvE. Again, even if you buff these things and you gave them another 20% damage buff, I know they've gotten a few damage buffs in the past, even if you increase their fire rate from 140 to 180, something in that ballpark, and then even if you gave them a huge ammo reserve buff, as we saw with the rapid fire frame sniper rifles, so that way their ammo reserves can go from somewhere in the ballpark of 25-ish to say 32, somewhere in that ballpark, then we could be talking. Those 3 buffs alone could do a big favor for these. And again, you may think, oh, well, that will make them overused. Shotguns are incredibly niche. You know, you can have a really good slug shotgun, think Heritage, which is like a pocket golden gun that you store up the recombination stacks, and that one shot that you fire does a fuckload of damage. It's not always going to be the best option. It's not even oftentimes the best option. So having something that's high burst but a very risk-reward style weapon like a rapid fire frame shotgun isn't going to be the best, even if its theoretical DPS is ridiculous. We see this with things like Fourth Horseman, that in theory it is really good DPS. You can do some pretty cool combos with it. Things with Radiant Dance Machines where you're just jumping all over the place and just dump trucking something. And that's great. Of course, that's an exotic, so it's a little bit different. But rapid fire should feel that way, where they're just bucking out of your hand as you're just unloading lead into something and just making it Swiss cheese. That's the fun part of the rapid fires. They were fun back then. They're still fun, but they're just not worth it right now. It is one of those things where you have to make them overpowered for them to be worth it because they are so risky. But I think it'd be worth it. I think it'd be super fun to have these as an option. Think about it. In GM content, you're never going to use these. It doesn't matter how much damage they do. They're just not going to be worth it. In Master Raid content, Contest Mode Raid content, it's probably not going to be the top option unless the boss is specifically melee based. Dungeons is where these things could really excel. Legend content is where these things could really excel. They're just fun, and I feel like they've been underutilized and underperforming for far too long. I would just love to see them get some love, some quality of life, and some improvements. And I mean, we have good 140s with solid perks already in the game. The Deadweight from Gambit, the Basso Ostinata from Terminal Override, the reissued Ikelos shotgun, and the brand new Until Its Return Taken shotgun from this season. They're all really good options, but again, without these buffs, I feel like they're just underperforming and just going to be relegated to permanent dust collecting in our vaults, unfortunately, until they finally get some love. So Bungie, please, I know you're busy, I know you've got a million other things to do, but I would love to see a buff to the 140 RPM shotguns. Let this one be a thing in a future sandbox coming soon. And with all that being said, guys, that's it for my take on the archetype that most needs that PvE buff. I plan on doing a video like this for what archetype I think needs a PvP buff in the future. For now, that'll be it for this video. Let me know down in the comments below what archetypes you would like to see get those PvE or even PvP buffs. I'd love to hear about them. And with that being said, this is Felminter signing out, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.